I'm Nicole, and I'll be reading the Poltergeist. Now, a large proportion of poltergeist activity may be accumulable surges of phenokinetic energy, and in rare incidents, possibly to the unconscious creation of no forms. There are several well-documented cases which appear to offer compelling proof of the presence of malevolent spirits. In 1966, Princess of Pontefract, Yorkshire, were the typical middle-class British family. Mr. Pritchard had a good steady job, which allowed his wife Jean to stay at home to look after their two children, the 14-year-old Diane and the 5-year-old Philip. But their safe suburban lives appeared to be violently disrupted. It began unconsciously enough with pools of water on the kitchen floor. What puzzled the Pritchards was the fact that there were no splash marks. But both of the children fiercely denied having played a prank, but there's nothing to do but mope and chug around. But they weren't aware at the time that their unexplained appearances of water on their walls and floor is an uncharacteristic feature of a poltergeist attack. But they were soon to get a crash course on the subject of the paranormal. When more pools appeared in water, board inspectors were called, but they could not find no trace of a leak. The following day saw more minor phenomena, but before they could be investigated seriously, the crease with Pritchard went back to normal. They had 2 years of normality before the phenomena returned, this time centering on Diane, their 14-year-old. Loud reports accompanied the smashing of crockery and other ornaments, so loud there were these noises that neighbors could gather around themselves and wonder if a normally placid couple were having an all-out domestic spec. Yorkshire people pride themselves in their down-to-earth, common-sense attitude to whatever unpleasant surprises that life throws at them. But even the tightly knit community to which the Pritchards belonged to is beginning to talk of poltergeists. Children told their friends that Diane had been dragged out of bed by unseen hands, and the parents confided to the neighbors that she had been pinned to the floor on several occasions by falling furniture which took both of them to lift off her. Curiously, in spite of the damage it caused, all this activity never actually hurt anybody. Even Diane emerged uninjured from attacks, only at the end of the spirit returned nasty, draggy Diane from the stairs with full view of her father, mother, and brother, who tackled the unseen entity, forcing the two to loosen his grip on her throat. But in case anyone thought this was the little girl's attempt to get attention, she was able to show them and set off angry red finger marks all on her neck. And Diane's mother confirmed her story, adding that she had seen large footprints on the bottom of the stairs that day when the carpet had been soaking wet. And the poltergeist was evidently not content with being a nuisance. Soon after the attack on Diane, he decided to scare the family to death by manifesting in the form of a hooded monk. Mr. and Mrs. Pritchard described seeing the spectral figure in the night, framed in an open doorway, and several independent witnesses saw a shadowy glimpse of what appeared to be a hooded figure in black elsewhere in the house. On one occasion, the neighbor claimed to have felt a distinctive presence behind her, and when she turned around, she found herself confronting a tall hooded monk whose face had been hidden by a crow. An instant later, it disappeared. The final sighting occurred one evening when Mr. and Mrs. Pritchard saw a tall silhouette darken the frosted glass of the dining room door. When they looked inside, they saw a shadowy shape sink slowly into the floor. It was the last incident of the baffling Pontefract case. Subsequent research has unearthed the fact that the Pritchard house had been built on site of gallows where a Cunulac monk had been hanged for rape during the reign of Henry VIII. In 1980, the writer Colin Wilson, an expert on paranormal, was avowed skeptic on the subject of spirits, visited the Pritchard family and interviewed other witnesses, including their neighbors. Their testimonies, together with the tape recordings of violent banging noise and contemporary news reports, finally convinced Wilson that this was a genuine case of poltergeist activity by an independent entity. He later wrote, "The evidence points clearly that the direction would be simpler and dishonesty not to admit it."
One time in my cabin in North Carolina, I was walking down the stairs to the basement of the house, and the day before we found a tombstone on the property with this woman's name on it, and it was really old-fashioned kind of name, and it was, the date on it said it was from way near the discovery of America. And so I was walking down the stairs to my basement, and I turned, okay, the stairs are like this, and then there's a landing here, and then there's a couple other stairs, and I turn, and I see this figure standing next to this old-fashioned stove that we have down there, and he was just staring at me, and he was just standing there in a normal position, and he was dressed in this classical garb, and it looked like he was from way back, and it was some guy, and it was really weird, and I turned around and I looked back, did a double take, and he's gone. Somebody's chirping. Okay.
Okay, once my step-grandparents live in Missouri on this farm, and they used to have this little shed out by, the house is here, and the shed's, way out, kind of close to the house, but there were, tons and tons of cats, equivalent to, a cat lady cat population, tons of cats, and they were just kind of, swarming around this little shed, they kind of lived there, and my grandparents fed them, they just would put, tons of food and, table scraps and stuff out there for the cats, and so, I was, there was, a creepy cat, and it had one eye, I didn't like the cat, so, I was out there, and like I said, they're on a farm, so there's this big farm, and we're out, on all the farm equipment, and they're showing me, all this good stuff, so I'm digging holes in the field, and I found a dead cat, and it really freaked me out, because I already didn't like the cats, because they're, everywhere all the time, and the one-eyed cat, and they named the one-eyed cat OE for one eye, and it was bad, I didn't like cats, so I was, totally creeped out, because I found this dead cat in the field, and so I went back, and I went to sleep because it was late at night. So when I went to bed, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was meowing, at the window, and it was so weird, and it just kept, it didn't stop, and it kept going until morning, and I couldn't get to sleep, and it was just meowing, the entire night. It's crazy.
Okay, have you guys ever played on the Ouija board? I've heard stories about it.
It spelled out die.
Oh. I used to be in love with that one TV show where they take celebrities and they put them in haunted places, and they used the Ouija board, and I thought it was really cool, and I wish I had one. Okay.
I was in the car once, and I was thinking about my dead grandpa, and his favorite song came on the radio, and the radio turned up all by itself. It was crazy.
One time, I was at this concert, and it was this haunted venue, and
Oh, my hand's shaking.
yeah, I know, it's really scary, and I met this one band member guy, and I took a picture with him, and there was a guy in the picture that I didn't know, and he wasn't there when I took the picture.
Yeah, he wasn't. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I was there.
Took the picture,
I took the picture, and he was not there.
And when she took it, he was there. Whoa.
Yeah, it was crazy.